Good morning, Mount Olive Church. I want to talk to you this morning about something that was caused a little confusion and whispering while I was preaching. The question that was set before everyone was, if your car gets stuck on railroad tracks and stops, and you don't have time to call or a phone to call, when you get out of your car to run or flee, which way are you supposed to run? There's some confusion on this. Well, the way that I came across this question was through my daughter and driver's ed. She was having driver's ed, and that question came up, and she asked me if I knew the answer. And obviously, I must have got it wrong for it to stick out in my mind. The answer is that if the train is coming in this direction and your car is sitting here, you're supposed to get out of your car and get away from the train and flee and run in the direction that the train's coming. Why is that? Because if the train hits the car, debris and the car and everything else will be going this way. So if you get out of the car and run in the same direction, you're going to get hit with debris. And so that's why you get out of the car and you run, you flee in the direction the train's coming. So when it hits the car, you'll be away from the direction, the force and direction of the train onto the car and the debris. So that was the illustration. And the illustration leads us to our verse today about fleeing. That's what we want to talk about just for a moment. In our sermon yesterday, or in God's sermon yesterday, we looked at this scripture. And in this scripture of Genesis 39 and verse 12, we learned that Joseph had prospered. Joseph had been successful, even as a slave in Potiphar's house. Why? Because the Lord was with him. But in the midst of that success came a great temptation. We talked about how that many times in life, it's when we are finding success or when we are at ease that the devil will bring his derailment of temptation. You see, he will tempt us to try to derail us from our God-given destiny. He will tempt us to try to derail us from our leadership as a father, a mother, or in a position of leadership, to derail us from God's success and prosperity. And so he did this to Joseph through Potiphar's wife. Potiphar's wife offered herself to Joseph. He was a young man, a young Hebrew boy living in Egypt. This was a grave temptation. But we find that she was so persistent, Genesis 39 and 12. She caught Joseph by his garment and saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out. I think that's one of the most powerful phrases in the Bible. Joseph was being propositioned by Potiphar's wife, refused it so much and had such a sense of urgency that he fled and ripped his robe. She had a piece of his robe. He fled and got him out. Just like when that train's a-coming. Why do we flee? Because there's danger ahead. Joseph understood that this was not morally right. Joseph understood that this would derail God's destiny, God's favor, and God's blessing upon his life. And so Joseph was so determined and so serious not to allow the devil to do that in his life through temptation that he fled. He ran from that running train or that coming on train and got him out of there. I like that. And so if there's one thing I want us to remember on this Monday morning, in 20 and 22, or in this week, let's be serious and understand that whether it's our marriage or our business or happiness or blessings or positions of leadership, that the devil will come in times of success or in times when life is unfair, and he'll try to tempt us, to derail us. When we know that this is not part of God's destiny, this is not part of God's blessing or plan for my life, this is something that's entering my life that is just going to derail what God's doing, I will flee. I will run. I will not tarry. I will not think about it. I will not excuse it or reason it out. But immediately I'm going to leave. My Uncle James used to say all the time, If you allow the devil to play at the playground, sooner or later he'll be in your house. And so I like this scripture here that Paul sends us. Flee also from useful lust and follow faith, righteousness, charity, and peace. And then with all them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart. That's our memory verse today. Flee also youthful lust, excessive desires for popularity, acceptance, worldly success. Flee useful lust for money and power, lust for other people. Flee those youthful lusts and follow righteousness, faith, charity, peace, and do it with them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Mount Olive, flee, run, and stay in God's plan for your destiny. Stay on God's path, even if there's divine detours, but flee from those devilish derailments. Have a wonderful Monday.